You're listening to the Light Overtime Podcast, Season 2 with David Sargent and Korey Bartos. It is February 11th, 2024. We took a little time off, but we're here, and it's beautiful. How are you, David?
I'm cold. I'm good. I'm different. How are you?
Great. It's actually fairly warm this week, so it's been a reprieve from the hellish landscapes we've had. It was negative 30 a couple weekends ago, so my car was stuck to the ground. It was not great. I didn't love it. So, yeah, you know.
Okay. Well, on my end, things are very different. And I think most of this show is going to be just a very authentic catch-up for me and you, because we've done a lot of things. I think you've done a trip or two or something since we last saw each other. Yeah. So what have you what you been doing? What you been doing?
Man, so it basically hit the ground running. What have I done? So many things. So I went out to Las Vegas for a week for work. Basically a big convention, industry convention. Did parties, did showroom floor stuff, did a bunch of things. That was pretty wild. Don't love Vegas.
So that was a work thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So not a whole lot of shooting, but you know, I had the camera and I took a couple of photos here and there. I don't like Vegas. Vegas is not for me. Fremont Street was kind of cool, but like only to go see it real quick and then leave. Wasn't the vibe. I haven't been shooting as much as I would like to, but my studio is done at work, and we're starting YouTube on for my work. So that's like taking a decent amount of my time now. We'll be working on kind of series stuff for actually shooting on the range, and then we're going to be doing a bunch of like tutorial stuff inside the studio. The studio is very cool.
So you've got 2 videos out, right, for that?
We have a couple. I put one out Friday.
I thought you put a new one out. I didn't realize that was like on the clock work stuff.
Yeah. So that's
cool.
This is like we're trying to figure out what makes the most sense to have like edutainment content that will help grow the brand and then get new customers and then kind of help market some of our new products that will be coming out soon. Instagram and Facebook Meta, the overarching Meta, and some other things. They're not super friendly with advertising in the firearm space. So like we kind of get SOL all the time. Like I lose my ability to stream on Fridays on Instagram often. So I haven't been able to do that for like 5 weeks, and I just was able to do it for the first time in a long time Friday. So it's constantly working around trying to not like sell things in those spaces that are, you know, regulated and whatnot, so we don't get banned. And if our stuff gets kind of flagged, we can potentially lose our ability to post and do other things, or hopefully not, but our actual Instagram account could be banned. So that's really annoying. But as far as the YouTube stuff goes, we're not necessarily looking to get it monetized, because monetization for that kind of content is also really challenging. But it's definitely a challenge for me to be kind of still a solo shooter, shooting and figuring it all out. So that'll be kind of pretty heavy this year for me.
Yeah. So aside from Vegas and then starting up some new processes at work, did you take any other trips for yourself?
I'm trying to remember if I did or not. Did I? I don't think I did.
I couldn't remember if you had, or if you had a couple planned that you, because you went to Arizona, but before we
yeah, that was before we finished last season. So
that's what I'm remembering.
I've been kind of moving around a lot right now, and I'm seeing someone for the first time in a long while, so that's been taking up a decent amount of my time, but all good. And then I do have Paris and London booked.
Nice.
That'll be end of March, first week of April. And then
wow, that's soon.
Yeah, that's very soon. And then May 1st through 12th, I'm going to Korea.
So I didn't know about the Paris-London. How soon did that come up for you to plan?
I had kind of started talking about it in the fall or whatever. I can't remember if I brought it up. I think, it was one of my 3 trips, but I didn't have a whole lot of info, and I wasn't sure if it was going to happen. So basically, it's something that my mom wants to do for her 55th birthday.
Cool.
So yeah, I'll be going with her to Paris first. She wanted to spend her birthday in Paris, and then we're going to go to London for a few days. It's not going to be a super long trip, but I think she and I are just going to shoot a ton. It's just going to be photography and like people watching and seeing old stuff and drinking a lot of coffee, because I think bread and coffee is all I want to do in Paris. Like, I don't know why I would do anything else. So that's going to be a lot of that part of the trip. But we'll go to the Eiffel Tower and we'll go do one of those fancy dinners and stuff like that, and just kind of do stuff that I probably wouldn't normally do. But I also, while I think it's going to be really cool and exciting, I never really had a strong like desire to go to Paris or London myself. So it'll challenge me in kind of a lot of ways. But my mom's a photographer. She does it kind of hobbyist stuff, but she's also done like family portraits and things like that. And she recently got a Canon R10. And so I took some photos and a couple of B-roll shots. I'm working on a video just kind of showing how, like, where we've come with cameras. I'm going to kind of take an angle from the 5D Classic and the R10, which is like the lowest and what was the highest end cameras from Canon. And how much better their worst camera is. It's not their worst, but I don't think the R100 is very fair because that's like super, super consumer camera. I think the R10 is like the lowest. You're actually probably trying to get like jobs and stuff and like work with the camera.
I would watch that video though. That sounds really interesting.
I'm doing that, and I'm trying to source like a iPhone 4G or something as well, to compare it to my current iPhone and do it from like both ends. But I might not even use the iPhone. I might use like my old Droid Bionic or something. Just like what those photos looked like in even 2010 versus what they look like now.
Come a long way.
So yeah, been doing that. Trying to get into some things, but before I get into that, what have you been up to that you're willing to share?
Let's start with I mean, pretty much everything. So the last time we talked, we were I think maybe packing. I think it was packing. Yeah. We were packing. So we packed, we moved, and I'm in the new house. The new house, which is 120 years old. It's got its quirks. It's lovely. We are really enjoying being in it. And I am a 26-minute drive from my new job. I'm no longer self-employed. I work for Dead River Coffee. I'm the coffee roaster there, and it's been awesome.
Nice.
I have really thoroughly enjoyed it. The owner there, she bought the place about 3 years ago now, and she's great. She's like my age, which is really awesome. So we connect pretty easily. The baristas, we have I think 4 on staff. They're all fun, fantastic. They're really they really like to learn. So everything I've been able to bring to the table at Dead River Coffee has been really well received. And there's a lot of things that I needed to learn about operation for a cafe, how to roast for operations for a cafe, and then how to handle bigger accounts. It was really, for me, my first week was like barely touching anything, even though I did start roasting day 2, but barely touching anything, not making any suggestions whatsoever, but like totally absorbing. I was a sponge, just observe everything. Because I did want to like come up with plans and suggestions, but I wasn't going to be the person that just comes in and says, you're doing it all wrong, right, and let me fix you. Because there really honestly wasn't a whole lot to fix, but there was so much room to grow. So I needed to observe where the efficiencies were a little deficient and see where I could help with that. And then we honestly are just like the lights are on now, and we're starting to get bigger accounts than we've ever had. I've only been on for 2 months now, but it's been just awesome. So I'm roasting on a 5 kilogram and a 10 kilogram machine, and that compares to my Bullet, which was a 1 kilogram machine. So effectively, I've kind of 10x'd my scale of production. And so we've gone from me using the Bullet for production at 1 kilogram to supply like 30, 40 pounds of coffee a week for farmers markets or whatever, to now I can bang out 150, 200 pounds of coffee in a couple hours on the 10K. And I need to on the weekly for our like wholesale accounts. We supply the Marquette Food Co-op. And then we just got another big account, which isn't public yet, but it will be very soon. But they've already committed to even more than the co-op is taking on.
That's
and
awesome.
that's going to be sick. Yeah. So 10x my scale of production. And it's been awesome learning the ins and outs of the difference of things like working with an electric roaster and then moving up to gas roasters, especially moving to 2 gas roasters, one of which is like 25 years old and one of which is like 5 years old. And so like the 25-year-old one is real finicky, and acts differently than the 10K, the newer one. They're both the same manufacturer, so they're both Ambex machines, but one is just real shiny and new and works the way it should. And the 5K is like, okay, I can't do things exactly the way it should be done, but we can get the job done. And that one is the one that operates inside the cafe, the 5K.
Word.
And so essentially, it doesn't really need to be operated anymore, but we do it because the atmosphere, the environment, it's a really cool thing to do inside a cafe, to have people come in, have coffee. The place is just buzzing all the time. When the roaster's on, nobody's whispering. No one's like, it's not, that shop is just never dead quiet.
That's cool.
And so when the roaster's on, everything's alive. Even when the roaster's off, people are coming up. I'm always helping people grab beans and talking to them about the process. And it's just, I don't know, it's just been awesome. So everything that I was doing at farmers markets, conversing with people about coffee, teaching and educating, I still do all that stuff, and it's awesome. I've just been exposed to a lot more operations that were outside of the scope previously. So cafe and wholesale and shipping online, which I can do now, which is fantastic.
Yeah. That's sick, man.
And I'm not like, I don't just follow procedure. I have, I'm able to give input, and it's well received. Like, I came in and I tasted everything as fast as I could. And there were a couple of the coffees that I thought could use some adjustment. Sure. And it was always, let's hear what you have to say and let's try it. And some of them not as well received as previously, like to where I would make an adjustment, we'd taste it and we go, that didn't quite work out right. And we'd all maybe agree. And then another one where our Monsoon Malabar, it had been roasted to a certain almost light roast, like on the lighter side of medium, and it tasted, the description on the website was like musty old book, like reading, like smelling a musty book. And I never liked that description. However, once I tasted it, I was like, oh shit, it makes total sense.
Sure.
But ever since then, I've been roasting that bean ever so slightly more dark, because I've had Monsoon Malabar before. It's an India coffee, and I've always thought it is true to itself, a little more authentic to its origin, as more of like a almost mid-dark rather than a mid-light-ish thing.
Sure.
And so it's got a little bit more robustness now. Not quite roasty tasting, but I think it's a little bit better. The baristas agree. The owner doesn't quite agree. Sloan doesn't think it's as good as when it started, but she's a little bit, I would say, she conceded on that one.
Sure.
And so we're having fun. And what's awesome is they never were really tasting and doing journals like I do for, like I was doing. So I got everyone to get these coffee tasting journals. Now we're all doing taste notes. We're all doing taste wheels. So we're all making like observations about every coffee every day as much as we possibly can.
Sure.
So everything's going to get better and better and better, and we're all going to get better about talking about coffee. That's what I've been doing.
Right.
All of this stuff, this coffee related stuff, has grown into my day-to-day job now. I'm not hourly. I'm just always on. Basically, I have weekends off, but if something goes wrong, I'm like kind of at the ready to go fix some shit. But I haven't had to really do that. I did it like once or twice, but every Friday I'm like making sure that everything's stocked up well. Baristas don't really need anything as far as like beans, and I make sure like my accounts are taken care of for the weekend, and then I know I might have to be a little heavy on Monday, but weekends are generally free, and that's where I'm going to attempt to try to maintain my photography through the year. So we're moved in, job's going well, and I guess we can move on a little bit. That's what I've been up to.
That's awesome, man. That's really exciting too, because like your growth with the farmers market was kind of a lot. Like it was incredible. It was like kind of chill, then it got good, and then it was like you were the big guy, right? You were the dude doing the coffee thing. And I knew there was probably something in you that was really nervous that some of the good from that would kind of not like present itself quick enough. Like that would be hard because I know how you are. Like you get really excited about it, and if somebody else is excited and wants to learn, you're just like you're there, right? So that makes me happy to know that you're able to do that still, because I know how crazy I would go if I lost like one of the social components that I was like looking forward to like every week or whatever. So hell yeah.
No, it only amplified. I'm now a little bit more surrounded by coffee nerds, which is just fucking cool.
Heck yeah, love to see it. I did see that you went out today. So what did you get out to try to shoot? Tell me about that.
Honestly, it was just me forcing it because I just haven't given myself the time. We've had a bit of a, I would say, not the easiest transition moving. Just like getting kids in school, new school, getting things settled in with like doctors and appointments and all this stuff. So I've not really been able to just like, hey, I'm going to go out for a couple hours, and then I haven't been able to make that time for myself. But today was that day. I was going to do it yesterday. Anyway, yes, I went out for the first time in I think two months. I haven't since we moved, and I've been here since mid-December. So I took everything, the 20 mil, the 50 mil, the 150 to 600, packed it all up. And I think I allowed myself like about 3 hours if I needed it.
Sure.
What I realized when I got out there, and this happens sometimes in the middle of winter on hike type shoots where it's dead quiet. There's no wind. The light was good. Like it was like blue sky. And then by the end of it, it was starting to get golden hour. But what I realized, and which I've come across before, is just like, I'm not necessarily not inspired, but I'm actually just enjoying being there rather than trying to force photos to become, to exist,
Sure.
So I think I shot like 15 shots. I did have some like soft goal in mind where I understood the conditions. There was no birds, there was no animals. The land, I was in, hardwoods, so kind of not really landscapes to shoot until I got to this one spot. So my goal was to look at details, textures, contrast, and some color stuff.
Sure.
And I found a lot of that. One of the cool things about where I've moved to, if you've ever visited the Michigan's Upper Peninsula, the further north and west you go, so closer to Lake Superior and just as far west as you can make it, the geology gets more diverse and more interesting. And there's some elevation. So there's just lots of rocks with lots of lichen and cracks and vertical lattices and structure and lots of detail to look at. So I found that with rock faces. And then I found lots of ice formation stuff, which for February should just be packed down with snow, but we have very little snow. So I found lots of ice on the trail where there was water runoff, and it feels like early December because there's still running water down the trail with the ice formations that would typically happen as the transition from fall to winter begins, but we've had very little real winter. So I was able to photograph some ice formations, some geology type stuff, details. And then I got to where I wanted to get to, which was this overlook point. It's a Alqual Recreational Park, I think it's called. I'm going to go back there a lot because that overlook was like 5 minutes from where I was. I think in fall it would be fantastic. And then there's other areas of that recreational area that I think would have better viewpoints for things like Northern Lights and Astro.
Sure.
Where I was facing Teal Lake. Looking down that lake was facing to the east. And so I think the Milky Way would line up pretty well over the lake in the middle of summer, and then to the east, sunrises, and then even sunsets catching color on the other side. So that could be a great spot for any other thing other than Northern Lights. But I'll explore that. There was a lot more trail system that I didn't have time to get to. But yeah, I shot for the first time today. Took probably probably more like 100 shots because I took a bunch of stuff with the ice. So I'm excited to sit down for the first time in a long time and just like look at stuff. I don't know if any of it's worth posting. I might just do like a quick carousel post on Instagram for some of the ones I like the best. But it just felt good to be out finally.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even just the little bits of Instagram story, it was good to see the David Sargent photography page have some photography on it for a minute, because it was like, it was really good for a little while. Then it got like a little rocky and it was really coffee-y. And then it was like...
I know. Trust me, it weighed on me. I don't know if most content creators probably get like this. Anybody who even just enjoys, has a hobby, if they want to do something as far as making that content or whatever, but just like life gets in the way, that is just an extra weight, right? Until you finally either force yourself to do it or you give yourself that time at an appropriate time, that weight just gets lifted. Right. So I feel a whole lot better after that.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. As far as shooting for me, I haven't done a ton of it. That's not work related. Work related stuff has been good. We're looking at some different products that'll push us into different parts of the market soon. And so we've been able to do a little bit of like different kind of shooting. I found that it's just kind of, it should be illegal for me not to use my 70-200 at least once a week, because I'll go several weeks without having the 70-200, and then I'll do just like 15 images where I just like, yeah, let's throw it on there. And I'm like, those are 15 good images. Like all 15 of them, chef's kiss. Like, so that's been really interesting. I've been contemplating being way more organized about a lot of parts of my life. And then I'm to the point now where I want to be more organized about kind of what I want to make. And it's become clear to me that if I don't actually try and goal set and like actually like write down the things that I'm trying to do, I'm just never going to do them. And I was never really like a calendar or planner guy. I was never really like I was always just like vibing like that. Like if the vibes were right, Korey was doing it. And so like I'm on Notion calendar now, and I'm trying to like get the things that I need done in there. And I'm doing a lot more task lists. I'm trying to use other tools that I'm like playing with tools right now to figure out what works for me really well. And then I've always been interested in Daniel Milner, who I've talked about on here before, Shifter Media. He always talks about his journals, and his journals are really, really artistic, and they're just for him. They're not something that he publishes or anything like that. But over the years, he's like showed a page or something from them. And I've always really admired that, like, he'll get like a Xerox print of one of his photos and he'll like glue stick it into like a centerfold. Oh, wow. And then he'll write over the photo, and he like really goes kind of like, it's like Pinterest is hell. But for somebody like him who isn't like Pinteresty, social media-y, it's like truly a thing that he just does for himself, and he doesn't like post it out anywhere online and nobody gets to see it. Like I think there's a part of my creativity being like, I used to want to be an illustrator when I was a child. Like I used to like fill up sketchbooks. There's like something that I'm not doing by not putting pen on paper more. And everything I do is just like notes on my phone, notes on my computer, things for work. And so even taking notes from, like, I was helping somebody with a letter that they were trying to write for grad school or something. And I was looking at it in like Google Docs or whatever. And I just grabbed like a legal pad and I started writing all my notes on it. And I just took a photo of it and sent them the freaking photo of the legal pad. And I was like, these are my notes for your thing. Hopefully it helps. Nice. And it was really helpful for them, but it changed the way that I like interacted with my thoughts on the letter. And so I went out and I got Maybe I'll just like put it up on the screen. I got like a 12 pack of these like 5-inch by 8-inch, like craft paper covered, plain paper journals. And I think there's like 60 pages each. I started one at Jaegerworks for like my work stuff, notes about creativity, things that I want to do. And I'm just going to like start filling it with stuff. And it's like my 2024 journal. And then I want one for just like photography. And then I want one for YouTube. And maybe I'll do one that's just like a personal thing and it's actual thoughts and feelings, like journaling and diarying. But I think that without properly beginning to break down the things that I want to do, set goals, write it down, and keep myself accountable for those things, I'm literally going to let so many things never happen. And it's like, well, what am I doing today? You know, you have an amount of things that you want to get done for the weekend, but then your buddies are like, hey, let's play like Counter-Strike. And then you do that for 4 hours. And then you go hang out with your partner or whatever, and then you get dinner and go to bed. And you're like, wow, for 4 hours, I could have done like 3 different things. Instead of just like saying, whatever, dude, that's energy, and then like mindlessly play games. So that's a huge thing that I'm going to do for this year. And I kind of want to, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily talk about it with you here or if I'm going to do some content on YouTube about it, but I think I want to try to explore what that looks like, get more in tune with like physicalness, and then be able to try to get my thoughts down, not in technology, and see if it's better. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Starting this new job, it's funny because my boss is not a digital. She does not like putting notes in her phone. She definitely writes things on pen and paper. I've taken to doing that a lot more. At work, I have a paper journal. It's everything I plan to do that day, everything that happened that day that I might need to recall, and I have had to recall quite a few things that I am so grateful that I wrote those things down for. Things that I think actually would just suck to take my phone out and try to record like what I needed to do and what had happened. But on paper, it is just kind of easier sometimes. Right. So I've gotten to be doing that. And you saying this out loud makes me think, if I do this for my creative outlet stuff, photography, and then maybe even my YouTube channel as well, I think maybe it would help me grant myself that time, right? Like put it on paper and go actually think, can I spare 2 hours to try to do this, Saturday or Sunday? And if not, write it out like, what does Saturday look like? This appointment, whatever this appointment. But there's a block. Let's try for it. Maybe if I put it on paper and just try to make it a tangible thing that I can refer to, maybe it would happen more often for me. I think I'm going to start doing that too.
Yeah. And I just think like, I don't know. I'm to the point, I think like my 30s are probably going to go really hard. Based off of how this year is starting and how I'm kind of planning, I think like it's going to go like, it's like, wow, I'm going to do everything that I wanted to be doing in my 20s, except I have money now. And like, like I want stuff for my life. It's not as haphazard. I'm not just like being opportunistic. It's like now I make things happen for myself rather than like find myself getting into cool things. Like just saying, screw it. Like I have a salary now. I'm going to Korea next year. And now it's next year and that's in 2 months. And it's like, dude, I'm going to freaking Korea for 12 days.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Do you remember Rutha from your trip up with us to the workshop? Yeah. She works as a farm tech and her schedule is 7 on, 7 off. Yeah. And she makes pretty good money. So she takes a trip almost every 7 off. And she's going to Banff in Canada. Nice. And actually she's packing right now to go do that. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what she gets. She went out to California a couple of weeks ago. I think that's just awesome. If you have the ability and you have the budget to be able to do these things for yourself, do it while you can.
Yeah, for sure. No, I still follow her. I didn't know that she was going to Banff, but that'll be dope. Yeah. I mean, usually it's just like super passive. I just see her stuff, but
she came into the shop and made me make her a mocha, and then got one of my batteries. So she's borrowing some of my stuff to get out there. So I'm excited to see what she does out there.
Yeah, heck yeah.
It's beautiful up there.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's like cheat codes, right? It's like one of the spots that I want to go to still. Like I don't care that it's overshot. I want to go to Banff. I want to go to Iceland. I want to like go to some of those places. I don't care that everybody goes and takes photos. Like I still want to go.
Of course.
But yeah, that's pretty dope. As far as goal setting goes, I think I really have a couple of different things. Obviously I'm tackling a ton of YouTube at work. And I think because I'm going to be kind of living in that a little bit, I want to try and actually get some of my like creative ideas down for my YouTube channel, whether that be doing a series stuff again, whether that be doing my actual like nerdy camera stuff. But I'm just going to do like, when I feel like making a video, I'm going to make a video on my channel and it's going to get on there and we're going to see what happens. As far as my travel, I've been consuming a little bit of street photo content, mainly because like I want to see what people are doing, so I can try to like find what I think is actually compelling. Because like when I think of street photography, I think of like 3 photos, and and it's the same type of photo that I've seen taken a million times. It's like people in a crosswalk, from like a fast angle, like they're on the sidewalk, but the person that is in the photo is on the crosswalk, or the straight on, like right across the street. There's like somebody that's busily going to work, or it's like somebody at a shop or somebody doing something in the street that's interesting. It's always the same thing. And I never see, and maybe it's because I'm not looking for like photo stories. I'm not looking for sets. I just like, I see so many of these like banger images that aren't bangers at all. They're just like heavily edited. Right. So I want to try to tell stories, and I want to try to find ways to make street photography interesting to me. So that doesn't mean I don't care how it does on Instagram or whatever the hell. I want to make images that I would call definitively street photography that aren't garbage. And then it brought me to a thing that I noticed that I really don't like on Instagram. And there's a lot of people that'll put like an 85 or like a 70-200 on their camera, and then they do these Instagram reels where they're like taking photos. It's not even street photography. It's like unwanted portraits of people walking in the street. And I really, really hate it. I don't know why, but I feel like it's
like the people are aware and they don't like that their picture's being taken. Is that what you mean?
No. So they become aware that a photo is just taken of them, and it's one way or the other if they care or not. But it's not set up to like show the space. It's not what I would call definitive street photography. It's like tight. It's usually like, it's like stealing people's images. Basically, it's like I'm stealing images of humans, and they just do like a reel where it's like they show like video and then the photo, video and the photo, and they'll do that like 10 times. And it's like literally just stealing these portraits of people in the street. And for some reason, and I don't know why it makes me mad. I don't know why I feel like it's not okay. Maybe it's a privacy thing. Maybe I think it's just like shitty content.
Do you think it has something to do with like it being a shitty reel that is going to last for like 30 seconds online and then just be forgotten? That's what I think. I think that there's a place in the world for that type of photography to exist and be appreciated over time, right?
I don't know. I just feel that it's like this is street photography, which is fucking not street photography. And it's just like I go out with like my A9 III that's brand new with a 70-200, and it's just like these not good over edited photos of people like candidly in the street, like with no environment. And like I said, it's random, but I had a strong emotional feeling the last couple of times I saw them, to the point where I was like, this is like the 4th time I've seen a video like this and I hate it. Why do I keep getting reels like this?
So you have some emotional direction.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's like if I just think it's morally wrong, or if I just think it's morally shit. Like it's just like
maybe a little column A.
Look at how good of a street photographer I am, and you're just stealing these like random fucking images. But like if you take a photo of somebody and they give you like a nice little smirk or a smile at 200 mil on a 70-200 on any Sony body, and you edit it, it's gonna look nice. The quality is high, but the image isn't good. But it's like, obviously, you can go out on the street in New York and make 50 of those in 1 hour, and then just like pump them into Instagram, and then you have like 10 million subscribers or followers or whatever the hell, and they're like, oh yeah, dude, like it's beautiful street photography. And
all you really did was showcase the lens,
right? Yeah,
what the lens is capable of.
And I just think it's to the point where I just don't care. I just don't care about photo content, which is weird because I want to make some photo content, but like I want to figure out how to make photo content that actually provides value, because like that doesn't provide any value, and I think it's just weak and boring. Because like you didn't try, you just like were like, I'm just gonna snap with a GoPro on every single photo of a person walking down the road. I'm gonna put it in a reel, and now it's gonna get like 30,000 views for no reason.
I think the one thing I can refer to, which is my only real recent experience with street photography, is my time in New Orleans, where some of my most favorite images are me enveloping myself in the environment and trying to be a part of what was going on.
Sure.
And like and engaging with people and allowing them to accept me in their space. Sure. Me being in the coffee shops, I actually asked a few people for their portrait in Jackson Square, just because I was like, hey, I'm a photographer, I like your look, can I take your picture? And they usually, I didn't get anyone who told me no. They were all really happy to be asked, and they gave me great portraits. There was a couple other photographers who I thought, oh, this is just us connecting, and I asked them, and they were like real cool with it. So I don't know, I think that's part of it. There was a couple like the second line stuff that was going on outside of our apartment down there. I actually was in it, trying to groove with them a little bit, and everybody who was dancing around me was real cool with me being there. Not that they could hear me if I asked, but they were very aware of me and very okay with it, type of thing. Yeah. And I was using, I think between the 20 and the 50 at the time. So, not super far away, not trying to like steal anybody's image from 100 feet away. I was actually inside of what was trying to go on.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it exactly, but I know that I didn't like those things. And I also obviously hate that stupid trend where it's like, hey, I'm a photographer, blah, blah, blah. And it's like half of them are staged. Like half of them are like, this person, and you walk up and they're like, oh, hey, yeah, you can do that. And then it's like some trendy like music audio, and it's like 3 photos of a person. Like,
I do not go looking for reels on my photography Instagram anymore for that reason.
Yeah, because I
just got so mad at those.
They're bad. Like they're just not good.
They are.
And then I realized that it's because I don't care about portrait photography necessarily. Like I like really good portraits when they're a part of a story. So like just a really banger looking portrait, I was like, oh, duh, because it's not telling me anything. I don't even know who this person is or care. It's just like a clinical image. It's like a sample gallery for like the new camera coming out. Like this doesn't do shit for me. Who is this person?
Yeah, there's deeper meaning. Yeah, I can see what you're trying to search for. Yeah. And I think there are people who appreciate portraits probably more or differently than you do, but I understand what you're going for.
Yeah, right. So like, I don't know. I want to stop even slightly contributing to that kind of noise. And I want to try and make stuff that is both interesting to me and pushing like my abilities, but also like if I'm going to post it, if it's for the internet, I want it to like provide some kind of value. I want it to be at least a good story. Like, who the hell is this person you're taking a photo of? Why do I give a shit?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to get into like artsy stuff anytime soon. I'm not going to like do shoots to make like stuff look good. Like that's not like, some of that conceptual stuff is really dope, and I think that energy is really cool, but that's not what I'm looking to do. Like I'm looking to tell stories more than anything. So
I think that's the pathway for a lot of photographers. Starting out, you do a lot of surface level shoots. I think at least that's the way I started out. I shot with a lot of models. I had ideas that I thought would look cool as a photo or a series of photos. I grew out of that over the years, and now I'm looking, just like you, I'm looking for the stories. I'm looking for people who are doing something a little different. I want to take their photo, maybe a series of their photos that add to the context of their life.
For sure. Yeah, I feel that. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's going to be paramount for me to really enjoy trying to tell the story of both of my trips coming up. Like I want to be able to like potentially journal or make like a short just travel film for me to look back on or whatever, and have some depth to it rather than just like, again, and it's mostly because I've recognized the faults in my own work over the last couple of years. Like, I don't want it to be like cool B-roll slammed together with music. Like, I want to find that stuff. I want to figure out how I can capture it and how I can retell these things and relay them in interesting ways to people. And I think, hopefully, if I can figure out how to do that well, and I'm actually genuinely trying and doing it, I'd like to think that it would also do well. So I'd like to share that shit with people.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to see it.
Yeah, so that's kind of like right now my goal setting is like, how am I actually going to take the images that I care about that aren't bangers? How can I start posting stuff even though it's not a banger and tell stories? Like more carousels, like more images I can add into a carousel to really tell something, rather than like, well, this is the only strong one, so I'm going to post it and be like, hey, cool day.
Right. That approach is going to get you to shooting more too. And that's what I've just had to accept, was like today, even if none of the photos that I took are bangers or whatever that is supposed to be, I enjoyed myself. And there's a visual representation of me enjoying my time doing that thing. And it's those images, and whether they're good or not to anybody else's point of view or even my own, I kind of just want people to see how it went.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess in that vein, I did message you like 20 minutes before we started, but
Yeah.
I think beyond you already stating that you're going to try and use your weekends, your newfound weekends, to try to find a sliver of time to do stuff, is there any kind of photography that you're like actually looking to get amongst this year and actually do?
So so it's really not anything new that I want to try to do necessarily, although I'm open to becoming aware of some new interests in that vein. But it's twofold. One, I live about 26 minutes, 25 minutes away from where I work. I don't live in a town that I used to live in when I was here in 2015. So there's a lot of area for me to explore as someone who just really enjoys nature photography, landscapes, wildlife, all that stuff, astro. My time, as sparing as it is for photography now, is going to have to be used exploring one weekend to the next. So I am thinking way ahead about like potential workshops. So I need to understand like where it's most popular that people are hiking in versus like hard to get to spots that are actually really valuable. So I need to spend my time actually exploring really meaningful places to explore that have big potential. And then I also need to make notes for what's good for wildlife, because I was very close to selling my 150 to 600 to help like moving costs and stuff.
Yeah.
And my buddy who helped me get that lens in the first place, when that came out, was like, no, you're not selling that lens. He was like, I'm going to help you so you can move. Don't sell that lens. So I was like, okay, fine. And so that helped reinvigorate my interest in wildlife and just maintain that. And so I'm going to commit to trying to understand the ecology for wildlife in where I live in Ishpeming. And then on my way to work, I go through Negaunee and then into Marquette. So between like all 41, I know that I live pretty close to a larger population of moose. So there definitely are some animals that I don't have experience with at all, that I need to be a little bit more careful because there's more bear up here. Moose aren't friendly either, really.
No, they're very dangerous.
So there's opportunity for me to be shooting new wildlife. Cool. You know, all that said, I am going to be doing a lot of the stuff I was doing. I had some other areas for things like Northern Lights and stuff that I'd like to revisit, because really it's been 8 years since I was shooting on a D50-300 and had just got a D500 before I left this area. And even though the D500 would still be a great camera today, I've come a long way with the technology that has come a long way too. I think I could make some pretty great images in places that I've already been. So my goals for this year are explore new areas that have high potential and record them and try to make potential workshop ideas out of them, and then try to learn wildlife ecology, and then revisit some areas that I think I can refine certain compositions at.
Sure. That's huge too. And like the value of those workshops are going to be that you get to be the more local fixer than you were in the past. Like you were like a pseudo local because you really understood the area and stuff, but your ability to really take people into places that like you're not just going to Google and go find some good stuff. You can find some sweet spots and really, really add a ton of value to somebody who wants to go on an adventure like that and just like be the guy. That's super exciting. I mean, you really took advantage of some killer storms last year in Charlevoix. So like being in a place that you love with different, like more interesting geology and just like landscapes, you're going to be able to take more advantage of that, which is exciting because your freaking Northern Light stuff's going to get nasty. But
I have an image in my head of me being on top of Sugarloaf watching a storm front come in, which would be just stupid, right? Like you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't climb Sugarloaf knowing that there's probably a dangerous storm coming in. But that viewpoint between potential Northern Lights up there, which I would love to get. I tried that once and they never showed up the whole freaking night. And then a storm front, like a big old dark cloud bank coming in would be just sick because you see La Superior Dome, you see the bay, you see Big Bay on the other side, you see Hogsback behind you. I would love a big wide shot of just this large looming. I mean, you can get it with fog banks and those look pretty gnarly too. Sure. They'd be less dangerous also. But I would love to get up there for some of that storm stuff, but then getting back down before the storm actually gets over top. That's the key.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, so much opportunity. So I'm excited to see these episodes will get interesting the more you get out. So
definitely
love to see it. I guess we'll work on refining some of that stuff. I'd love to see if you end up like charting the wildlife that you do see, and then potentially even doing something where you post what you have seen, what people can track, that kind of thing, because that's super interesting to me. I'd love to see like where and what you're actually seeing up there. As somebody who has plans to come up and visit the area, the person I'm seeing right now, we're thinking about coming up to Marquette relatively soon. She's been up there, and we just want to get like a cool weekend where we'll probably find an Airbnb somewhere and just like hang out for a few days. And obviously, I'll hit you up when that happens because we'll do a live. Well, I already told her we'll do a live episode or something when I come up.
Finally.
Yeah, finally. I was hoping to last year, and it didn't happen, but we'll make it happen this year for sure.
Sick.
But yeah, so we'll see what happens, and we'll keep on each other to make sure that we're making cool stuff happen.
Definitely.
All right. So I have a handful of links here. Some of this stuff can get really, really nasty. So like really in depth, but I think for the main topic that I wanted to talk about, have you seen much of the Apple Vision Pro stuff at all?
I saw that it released. I haven't watched reviews because it's one of those things where it's not interesting enough for me to even consider it because of the price point type of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though I have a Quest 2 and I enjoy it, I think it's cool. The Quest 2 is like a tenth of the price. You know? So I don't know much else other than that it's like spatial computing or whatever Apple says, and you can be on your Mac environment inside of it, right?
Right. So it's I've been thinking about it a lot this week. And so it's one of those things that if 13-year-old me saw, I would be obsessed with it. Yeah. It is very potentially one of the coolest things I've ever seen. There's something, so I made the link to, there's an anime that I watched as a kid called Tenchi Muyo. And in there's these like, anyway, these couple of girls or whatever have this basically power kind of, and it's really casual. It's not even a big part of the show, but they'll just go like, and then like a keyboard will like show up in front of them, and it's just like hollow lights and a little screen, and they'll just like, and so like seeing the inside of like video editing on an 80-inch screen in front of you in your living room or whatever, and like having all your stuff out, there's so much of it that I'm just absolutely obsessed with. But I watched a couple videos. I watched MKBHD's videos. I watched a couple of other big ones, and then Patrick Tomasso, who I've talked about on this channel a bunch, He made a video on his second channel, Tomasso, and I'll link it. And there was something that he said, I wish I wrote down the quote, but he was like, and this has been said about other stuff in the past, but for some reason, the way he said it and the way that it hit me in his video was really, really powerful. And it was, there's truly your life before Vision Pro and after Vision Pro. And like the way the tone of the video and how he was talking about it, like he already has it and they've already been doing a bunch of stuff with it. It really felt to me like right now I have a choice if I ever want to involve myself in that kind of technology or not. And like I like VR. I think Super Hot is one of the most fun video games I've ever played in my entire life. and like
it is fun.
And like I've been, Jack had the freaking Oculus like dev kit millions of years ago, and I was like able through him to be on like the very front of that technology.
He did the same for me.
Yeah.
It made me aware of that stuff. Yeah.
Right. And it was such a big deal. And this is different. This isn't just like jumping in a headset to play like some silly video games or something. This is like I can do my productivity in my entire room. It looks incredible. The refresh rate is such that like it's pretty damn clean and it works really well. And I just see these images of these people that are just like, I'll put my hands in the screen, but they're just like, and it's like the most looming feeling I've ever gotten from a launch of anything. And I think it's because Apple did it and it's probably not going to fail that it makes it more real to me. Yeah, because it's not games, it's not toys. It's like there's going to be people using this for real stuff, and like the pass through is so good that you can walk around and just exist in VR and work on stuff. And you could be having like, I know right now, if somebody has Apple Vision Pro on, I'm not fucking talking to you. I'm not gonna. You can record stuff. You can be looking at things. You can be doing all this. I don't want to talk to you. And I feel like a boomer saying that, but I'm 100% serious. If I'm not also in like Vision Pro and we've like talked about it, if you come up to me in that shit, walk away from me. And it's so trippy and so wild.
It is, yeah.
But
I haven't been able to tell. Apple is a company that can make it exist for as long as they want to, regardless of whether it makes the money, at least on the first iteration, right? So I'm curious if they continue this. I definitely think they are, because it looks to me like more than just the cutting edge people are getting them. It does look like content creators are getting them for productivity rather than for the trendy make a video about it thing. So it does look like they've been able to penetrate a market deeper than just the surface level reviewers and stuff. That's, I think, good for the industry on the whole, because I enjoy the VR stuff. I use the Quest for like hanging out with a couple people in different environments. I think that's pretty popular for people who have VR stuff. I would go bowling with a couple friends, and there's a pretty damn good bowling game that we enjoyed. But like you said, that is for basically just like playing a couple games and enjoying yourself. Different, very, very different from what I've been seeing people use the Vision Pro for. So I'm excited to see what they end up doing. I have a question. I really haven't looked into like the technical use of it. I've just seen people using it basically. Does it have its own hardware in it for you to like video edit not connected to a Mac?
Somehow that's escaped me, because I was so disinterested in that part. I was so interested in just seeing as much inside the helmet as I can. I assume from a little bit of reading, I think it has to link to your Mac.
That's what I would have to think, right? Yeah. Because I do think it has the M2 chip in it.
Yeah, but that's doing a lot of processing. So one of the coolest things that it does really well is when you're looking in it, it's not like a perfect field of view. MKBHD says it's a little bit of like a tunnel vision. Like you're looking into a port and then it's pretty wide, but it's still pretty wide. But what's wild is the way they get around like rendering that whole scene of like inside of your room is their eye tracking.
Oh, it's foveated rendering. That's what that's called.
Right. And from what I'm seeing, it's so good. It's like the best version of that ever. And so basically, instead of trying to render all that stuff, that whole M2 chip is basically just being used for that eye tracking.
Yeah.
And then, but apparently, MKBHD says it's so natural feeling that it rolls off like your peripheral vision. That's wild. And because it's at 90 hertz, and if you're watching like true 24p content, it'll buff up to 96 hertz. So you're at like an even, you're not going to see drop frames or anything like that. It's like, that's pretty fast. Like that's a really solid refresh rate.
If you want to say like watch a movie on a big screen, does foveated rendering not render parts of that screen if it's big enough?
I assume so. But I think it's probably good enough
close to your natural vision
that like you're going to look around and your peripheral is going to be your peripheral. Like you're going to see what you see.
It would kind of like be in the front row of an actual movie theater where you might actually have to turn to look at different parts of the screen.
You could just,
that's wild.
You could be in the sphere in Las Vegas, basically in your living room. You could just sphere out and have like the whole, you put on like, make your freaking whole living room like Dolby Atmos, crank it super loud and wear your Vision Pro and just be crazy. Anyway, it's wild.
I'd like to experience it. I think MKBHD, I don't know if I watched his actual first video, but he's made reference to the fact that it's called Pro on the first shot. And there might be another iteration of it that's not called Pro that might be more accessible. That one would interest me.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that it would come with anything less than an M2 chip and certain, hardware. I don't think they'd make it significantly worse.
Right. Right.
Just some nice to haves might be gone.
Right, for sure. And I agree. And I was going to bring that up as well. I think that is an interesting thing to at least note. But it makes you think, what will this look like? What will this ecosystem build into? Well, like maybe you have Vision Pro, but you don't have full desktop access. But you have like an app suite that works on like a smaller version or something. You can speculate for days, but
Final Cut in the cloud, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. Just, you don't need to buy a Mac anymore. If you spend $4,000 on the Vision Pro, you can just be inside the ecosystem and everything is connected to the cloud. I bet you they're on that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many companies already working on render farming, like having a cloud to render farm and everything like that there's no way that's not happening. But yeah, it's crazy. It was the first time that like I had like a demoralizing like feeling about technology, other than when I saw Starlink on their first launch, because I was in the middle of the desert in Utah. Like that was the other time in my life where I was like, this is awful.
Yep. Every time I see Starlink, I think the same thing.
Yeah,
this sucks.
Sure. For sure. But cool. That was kind of all I had for that.
I do think it's super neat.
Yeah, I think it's neat, but I think I'm at a turning point in technology that like, do I want to embrace it further or live the next 60 years of my life, or hopefully, 60 years of my life, having not succumb to the metaverse.
Right.
And we're going to be at the door soon. Like, it's going to be like, do you do that or not? And I made a joke. I was like, dude, there's going to be people that like, this is going to be the big separation of humans that start like the android thing that like sci-fi movies have talked about. It's not going to be androids. It's not going to be like, oh, they're like different. It's just going to be people that are super linked in and people that aren't super linked in, because it already happens, right? Like this happens in small degrees, but I think those degrees will grow and it'll be something. But all right, I have a couple of rumors I want to talk about. Keeping our I actually played with what our format looked like so much, and I like it how it is so much. I just want to make sure that
I think it works.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the gear talk is just at the end of the videos of the podcast, and I don't want to get into it because I think talking about what we're doing to create and talk about that process and talk about ourselves is probably way more interesting than another group of dudes talking about kit. But so there's three things, and we'll kind of just go into them hard and fast. Have you seen the Z6 specs?
Z6III?
Yeah.
So is it rumors?
It's
spec leak?
It's rumors.
Okay.
But
no, haven't seen it at all.
So
I know not to believe it because we come up on this a couple times.
I think the last one was pretty damn close. I think they're getting there, and this is rough, but we're looking at like it says body inherited from the Z8 style, which I think is the way to go, because I'm thinking like the high end DSLR meets the mirrorless is better than what they're doing with the Z6 and Z7, and I think they've proven that because the freaking Z8 is one of the nicest looking cameras I've ever seen in my life. But basically all of the tech, which is like the IBIS that's super good, and like the all the electronic shutter stuff, all that stuff. But we're starting to see people talking about different video codecs that are exciting to me, talking about 6K 60, talking about 4K 120, and that's going to be normal.
6K 60.
Yeah. Whew. And I could see some of this stuff starting to happen and start to roll out. But 2 card slots anyway. The fact that this is happening, like I think I said with the Z8, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a turning point where Nikon actually is going to be caught up. I think they're working towards it well. I think their lenses suggest that they're in a good place. I think that they're going to be like a really, really viable camera. The Z8 and the Z9 are just a little expensive for content creators, but when they can get closer to that between $2,000 and $3,000 mark, I'm starting to see a few content creators picking up various Nikons. Like content creators I didn't expect to start flirting with the system. And they're like, oh, I'm not switching, but I got one. And they're starting to pick up the Z8 because it's a hell of a camera. Some wedding photographer content creators I've seen, some stuff like that. And it's like, it's because they're really good hybrid cameras with a really hard focus on very good photography. Yeah. And so it's pretty hard to beat. So we'll see.
It could be interesting. I still like the ZF for what it is,
Oh, yeah.
But certainly there's areas that Nikon's never been anywhere close to the best at that. So they have room to grow. So of course, yeah, I'd love to see a Z6III that had some killer video specs.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And I think,
let's see if they do it.
I think a ZF2 with like a proper updated, like maybe 2 cards, maybe, some, does it already have 2 cards? I feel like, it did the micro SD, like 2 cards, or just like 4K 60 full frame, like really making it so you could just do anything you needed with that one camera.
You think they'll do a ZF2?
I don't know that they'll do a ZF2, but I think that the ZF is doing a lot better than the ZFC. And
I don't even know if that's true.
I think it is, because
I think a lot of people liked them both.
Sure, but I'm seeing people in the industry using the ZFC unironically.
Oh, sure.
Like people actually going, this is the camera I'm taking with me on my trip, or whatever the hell. And that's
I think a lot of professionals were able to see the ZF for more than what the ZFC was, which I think is what they intended to have happen.
Sure.
So I don't know. We're not in the rooms with them. We can't know the numbers. I'm hoping that the ZF did the numbers to say this warrants a ZF2.
Yeah.
But how long has it been since the ZFC's been out?
A few years.
You would hope a ZFC2 would have come out by now, right?
No, the ZFC was like 4 years ago, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You would hope a new one would have come out by now.
A ZFC2?
Yeah. Do you think?
No, I don't think.
If they don't do a ZFC2, I don't know if they do a ZF2.
I think that where they can make their market differentiation is in the ZF, because you're not going to get a Nikon APS-C over a Fuji. You're not going to do it.
I agree.
Because it's the lenses. Because the Z mount doesn't have small lenses. It doesn't have the manual aperture really feeling like you're in a film camera that Fuji does. So the only differentiation is all the people that are like, I want that retro style, but I need a full frame because I've been working in full frame for 10 plus years. Yeah. And they're going to crush that, because a ZF doesn't compete with Fuji. Period. They're not in the same market. So I really do think that they like needed to work up to it, and I hope that it goes well. I like that camera.
Yeah, I hope it expands. I think the last time we looked at, the last time I heard how financially Nikon was doing, that they've been on the up. Their expenses are shrinking. Their income is growing a little bit. So maybe that means that those cameras were doing better than they expected them to.
Yeah. I think if half of the Z6III is in the shape of being like a 4K 120 and like a good solid 24 megapixel with all the autofocus features, and probably not 120 frames a second, but like for stills, but fast. So like be real good. Be a no compromise 24 megapixel camera. I think they're going to be in great shape. You're starting to make that mount seem more serious and that system seem more serious, because you need to get that like bomb-proof $2,500 camera that people are going to want to take and buy two of and have backups and like run that thing. And I think they're close to that, because like the Z8 slams. Even with the issues that the Z8 had, it was barely a hiccup. They recalled it, they sorted it out, and they're like, this camera is the best camera that we've ever made.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, nothing. Yeah, I don't know anyone who I've watched as far as like YouTube photographers go who've used the Z8. None of them have a bad thing to say about it, truly, for what they use it for. And most of them are very photographer focused, but tend to take those cameras and also use them for video to see how they do as well. None of them have had a bad thing to say about it.
For sure. Yeah. And then, so the next thing that I had was the 24-50 2.8 is allegedly being announced in like 3 days. So I'm really excited for this camera because it's a G lens. It's not a GM lens, but it's not like a cheapo lens. I think a 24-50, if this thing is somehow sub 1,000, or if it's in that 1099 bracket, the 1098 that they get for those like high-end G lenses, depending on the size of a 24-50 2.8, I could see a fast prime and that being what I take on trips. Because I want some zoom, and I almost never need. I either need like a ton of zoom or I just don't.
If that's the case, what's your fast prime?
Well,
like an 85?
My guy, it sounds like there's going to be an 85 1.4, and I'm pretty sure the 50 just doesn't do it enough for me. As far as like competing with my 35, which I still use almost for everything. Okay. I just like a 35 the most. So yeah, I think it would have to really compete with my 70-200, which an 85 would do that. They are really, really hurting to have a good 85 millimeter. And once I heard that they were potentially doing a 1.4 and not a 1.2, I knew I wanted it because it's going to be a reasonable price. It's not going to be $2,000, and it's going to be really wicked fast.
And rock solid, probably just zero aberration and no fuss. Yeah. I can imagine that. And probably smaller and lighter. They've been doing that.
Well, and like for me, a 35 and a 50 is not versatile. But a 35 and an 85 is everything I need to shoot everything I need, period.
Totally.
Like that's just like I could take those two lenses into the another realm and be fine. So that's kind of already in my head. But I think a 24-50, a 35 1.4, and an 85 1.4 is like banger. So I really hope that it's sub 1,000, because if it's sub 1,000, I'll probably buy it on launch. It might not be. It might be 1098. So I might wait and see if I get like a creator discount or something. But
is there a precedent for other GMs to be in that price range for that? I mean, it's kind of a unique lens, but is there something you can reference that's at that price point?
So a 24-50 G, not G, I'm sorry. I'm thinking it's going to be along the lines of the 24 and 40 f2.5.
Okay, so this is a G lens, not a GM
lens, not a GM lens.
G lens. That makes a whole lot more sense. Okay.
Which is why I think like there's a potential for it to be like a really awesome $800 lens. Absolutely. I'd lose my mind. Yeah. Like, and I like those primes. I think the 2.5 primes are great. They're super small. I considered buying the 40 multiple times to have like a really small carry lens. Because like the 35 f1.4 is small, but it's not that small. So yeah, anyway, I'm excited to see this if anything, it's genuinely interesting to me. I think for 24 to 50 is a lot of what I could use at work on a day-to-day, and I do believe it will be sharper than the contemporary 28 to 70 2.8 that we have from Sigma. That's a good lens, but it's not a great lens. And I think a G 24 to 50 would be pretty damn sharp. I think I'd probably run with that a lot at work.
I can see it.
So I'm excited as hell.
Yeah.
The very last thing is they're starting to say that very soon might be an X100V, X100VI.
Oh.
And so they've been looking at, I mean, obviously there's a lot of freaking fuss around the X100V from Fuji. And again, not interchangeable lens. It's a 35 equivalent. So it's a 23 mil lens, f2. So it's like a f2.8.
Is this the lineup that they can't keep in stock? Is this the one that just goes nuts?
This is the one that people are selling for like $2,000. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
It's $300 more than the X100V is. So this is going to be a $1,600 camera.
Yeah.
But it's going to have a new film sim. It's going to have a handful of, I mean, all of this stuff is just like rumored, so it doesn't really matter. But it sounds like it's going to have like some pretty good video specs, which are interesting to me. Potentially a 6.2K option for open gate. Which I imagine they'll do because it's the 40 megapixel sensor that they have in their H series and their XT5, I believe. So it's going to have a much larger sensor. It's also made in China, which is interesting. So it's more expensive and made in China, which again, a lot of stuff's made in China. So I'm not going to just directly shit on that, but it is interesting.
Is that a first for Fuji?
I think they're generally made in Japan. Yes, the X100s are.
I think they make them in-house. I think I've seen video of them assembling, in their headquarters.
Right. Yeah. So I think they're generally made in Fuji, Japan.
Yeah.
So that
is interesting.
It's a big.
I wonder if it's only partly. I wonder if they've sourced something new that has to come from China.
Sure. I mean, and that could be the case. I mean, they were having issues with supply, right? So like, what are they getting from there? If it's assembled in Japan and then shipped out, whatever, cool.
It could be some core component, like it could be the sensors. It could be a number of things that it is significant enough that they have to say made in China. But I would bet more on a component is sourced from China and then assembled in Japan.
For sure, it wouldn't be their sensors because they make their sensors, but. But yeah, I mean, maybe a processor or something like that, or I don't know. Right. I don't know. Maybe literally buttons and stuff. It's just
just the housing. It could definitely be that.
Yeah, they were like, we started sourcing metal from Asia or from China because it was just getting expensive. At any rate, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't interested in this camera.
I'm not surprised.
I've almost bought an X100V like 7 times.
Yeah.
I was pretty sure I was going to do the A9 III. And then I just it wore off, like the excitement about it wore off because they started talking about like A7S4s and stuff like that. And I was like, ooh.
I know. I'm not too surprised by that either.
But even then I've also been kind of just wanting to I've been scouring and waiting for like a A7S3 to come up for like $2,400 and I might just snipe it because I miss having the really high ISO for video in S-Log. And then I miss having the 124K without a crop. So. There's a lot going on in my brain for what I want to do, but I'm fairly happy now that a lot of the work I'm doing is at work. The 2 A7 4s are great. So I'm more excited about maybe this glass and potentially picking up this Fuji just to like really explore stuff. I've been shooting the Canon 5D a lot, but
I was going to ask you about how that was going because I saw you were maybe trying to sell it.
I think I'm going to get it to my buddy Skip. He's going to take it off my hands.
Okay.
I got what I think I wanted from it. What I thought was interesting, I guess some of this is going to be in the video when I eventually make it, but I fell right back into shooting a Canon camera how I always had. Once I had the OVF again and stuff, especially with that older camera, it was center point. That was it. And focus, recompose. And then I just, as fast as I would normally be, focus, recompose, blah, 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 shoot my stuff. That camera is really interesting because it's not scary to shoot it at max ISO. It's kind of...
What's its max?
1600.
Okay.
And so like I'm at 800 and 1600 a lot because that's really standard for what I'm shooting on my Sony. Like I shoot outdoors during the day at 1600, 2000 to have my shutter speed where I want it for work.
That's what I did today.
And they're perfectly clean.
Yep.
So it's interesting, like the noise and stuff on it. There's some nice stuff to that sensor. It looks really good. It's been a lot of fun. And then after I realized that that's really cool, that's it. There's no.
How do those?
Sorry.
How do those files handle if you have to adjust, in post at 1600?
I mean, they fall apart fast, but if you get close to your exposure how you want it, the highlights, you're done. You have to underexpose because like your highlights are going to just be white pixels very, very quickly. But I've recovered a decent amount of shadow and, lean into the grain a little bit, maybe add a little bit in Lightroom as well. And they're fun. Like it's pretty good. I'll throw some shots that I've taken recently with them, but so like I'm kind of over that, and I want something that not necessarily small because I don't care about the size, as long as it's the size of a DSLR and has a flatter lens. That's all I kind of need, but I want something that has quality. I want to be able to like know that if I want to shoot a video clip, it's going to be as good as I could possibly want it to be. For like whatever content or whatever I'm doing. Like if I'm traveling and I have one camera, I have a buddy in the industry who travels to Japan and Korea and stuff a lot. And sometimes he has like a Leica Q and stuff like that.
Sure.
But sometimes he just takes the Fuji and it's everything that he needs. And that's cool to me. I mean, it's a 35 mil equivalent, so I'm comfortable with that. And it's sub $2,000.
I guess at the end of the day, if you can tell the story with whatever you've got, you can make success out of whatever you.
If it was anything but a 35 mil, I would be worried about using it as my only camera, but it's what I use. I literally just carry around my A7 IV with a 35 mil G Master. It's not going to be as fast, but like I've been playing with that more. I'm between f2 and f5.6 all the time. Because I don't want shallow stuff. I need you to see everything. I want it to be sharp, things like that. So it's interesting. I think this could be potentially one of the cameras that I just buy because I know I'll be able to get rid of it if I just don't like it. But I want to give it a good go. Much like I'm doing with work, where at work it's unimportant, but we're using one gun system, like one pistol, and we're training really hard with that all year. We're not going to just like jump around from a bunch of different things. I think getting that, and then if I'm doing stuff that's not for work, not needing all the big lenses, have a 35 and just try to tell stories like that. And then when I'm doing work stuff and I need it to be better, I can do that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm excited. Cool. At any rate, it'll stir up a lot of mess online, so it'll be fun to watch, but it is what it is.
And it will continue to, because that's how Fuji and that camera lineup has been for years now. Yeah.
And it's only worse now because people, it's like unobtainium that people just desire. So
yeah.
Leica didn't help. The Q3 coming out really solidified the like fixed lens, cool guy. I have you seen my X100V?
There was a while there where I wondered. I think most people wondered: is this trend going to die? Is this is this going to be able to keep up with everything else that's going on in the mirrorless space, in the race to the best, to the top with like Nikon and Sony and all their stuff? Clearly, it's not going anywhere. It's definitely kept up. Yeah. There's a couple brands out there that I'm still like, I wonder if they're going to be doing like Pentax. What's the other? Ricoh. Like they make some interesting point and shoots, and Pentax still, I think, put out a DSLR. Am I right about that?
They did like a monochrome version too.
Yeah. So they're doing some things. I don't know if anybody's really calling them interesting. I think people who are really into the super discreet point and shoots, Ricoh has something for that person.
Dude, the Ricoh GR3X, people love that camera. Okay, like the photography group that I'm on in Discord that's in like the guitar pedal space, like all of those dudes ended up getting one. They all love it. Even the ones that shoot film. Some of the guys that have submitted photos on our photo share, they got it and they love that damn thing. because it truly fits in your front pocket of your pants. And, you know, it's got like, I think it has like a 40 mil on it or something like that. And it's, you know, what zone focus or whatever that is, whatever that, and it just does the thing. And people really like the images from it. I've seen some incredible stuff come out of it.
Interesting.
So like, as far as that style,
but yeah, that's my point. Basically, like that format, that physical format, it's here to stay.
Yeah.
You know?
I truly don't like looking at mobile phone photos. You still, unless you are really good and you're like, I'm doing photography on a mobile phone, they still look 10 years old to me. Like, because normal people don't know what they're doing. Like, their Instagram stories and stuff look like crap. That with their filter, it's bad. But when you see somebody do like good stuff, like they're like, hey, this is like, you know when one of your buddies is like a closeted camera nerd because they're posting like their kids or whatever, and you're like, these are beautiful. And you just put up like 10 photos in your story and they're magical.
Yeah.
So, and I love that. I think that's great. I actually like looking at people's like random photos when they are quality, when they look good and they're like normal people I actually know. I stop and I look at them. So yeah, anyway, that's all I have for you guys. That's the show. Yeah. This is the end of season 1, episode 1. We're going to start off a new year. We did 30 episodes last year. I'm very proud of what we did last year. It was really cool.
Me too.
We like literally barely planned the beginning of it, and we're like, let's just see what happens. And a good chunk of you guys like it. We'll try to shake it up a little bit and kind of do some wild stuff, and we'll see where it goes. But, you know, check us out on Spotify. If you're listening on YouTube and you see my stupid face, we're also on like Apple and Google and all, whatever they are. Sorry, they don't even do Google Podcasts or whatever anymore. But
April. I have until April to switch, okay? I'm hanging on.
So whatever your podcast is, I think it pretty much is on there. The Light Over Time podcast with David Sargent and Korey Bartos. So thanks for listening. Leave us some comments. Again, this whole thing is for David and I to have conversations. It'll probably be like bi-weekly, or we're going to schedule times. It's not going to be like as consistent, but we're going to try to be consistent, if that makes sense. So it's about talking with y'all and sharing some ideas and motivating each other and telling dope stories.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there with us while we took our little break. I appreciate it because I know I had a lot of stuff to get handled. I'm finally starting to feel settled in a little bit. And so we're going to start making these, you know, like we said, bi-weekly. So starting to like schedule in time to be focusing on this so that I actually don't lose any of it. You know, it's going to be there for me. I'm going to make time for it, and it's going to be great.
Yeah, it's a good time. So thanks for listening, and we'll catch you when we do another one.
Thanks, guys. See ya.